Good morning, and thank you for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get right to your headlines. And a heads up as you head out today, most of Minnesota is dealing with unhealthy air. Canadian wildfire smoke has settled in over the metro, causing some very hazy skies, as you see here. Our weather team is issuing a weather impact alert as the smoke could have an impact on your outdoor plans today. We're going to check in with our weather team in just a little bit. But first, developing this morning, 25 people are in the hospital after severe turbulence on a Delta flight forced it to land at MSP. It was flying to Amsterdam from Salt Lake City. Audrey Russo is at MSP with everything we know.
I spoke to a couple who was aboard that flight headed to Amsterdam that ultimately was diverted here to MSP. They described the turbulence as feeling like a roller coaster ride. And they didn't want to go on camera. Understandably, it's been a very long night for them, but they were part of our process as we tried to track down more information on exactly what these passengers experienced. MSP confirmed to us the Amsterdam-bound flight from Salt Lake City was diverted to MSP around 7:45 last night due to reported in-flight turbulence that caused injuries. In this video feed from MSP Live, the plane you can see making an emergency landing was then surrounded by flashing lights and first responder vehicles from MSP's fire department and their paramedics crews. Now, that emergency response was still visible around the Airbus A330-900 even after the sun went down. We reached out to Delta Airlines, who described the incident as, quote, significant turbulence, confirming 25 people on board ultimately were brought to hospitals to receive care. They also thanked the first responders who were waiting at the scene. We were at the airport all night and gathered this video of some of the baggage from that flight getting stored during the overnight hours. And again, we saw people coming here to collect it this morning. Now, there's no word on how all of those passengers who were brought to the hospital are doing, the extent of their injuries. It's also not exactly clear how much notice these folks were given to really brace for that turbulence before it started to happen to the plane. Delta did tell us that they are working directly with those passengers to rebook their flights and to address their immediate needs. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you very much. We're learning more this morning about the first court appearance for a Delta pilot arrested in San Francisco just moments after landing a flight from Minneapolis. Rustam Bagwagar faces 24 felony charges related to sexually assaulting a child over the course of several years, starting when she was under 10. A 45-year-old woman was also arrested on what officials called a related felony complaint. Neither entered pleas. They're each being held on $15 million bail. New information just released by the NTSB says an Army Black Hawk helicopter was flying above its altitude ceiling when it crashed midair into a passenger plane in January. This comes on the first of 3 days of hearings into the fatal crash. Investigators say there may have been an 80 to 100 foot discrepancy between their actual altitude and the reading on their 1970s era equipment. The NTSB also highlighted years of near misses in the busy airspace near Reagan Airport. Developing right now, Minneapolis police are looking for the people behind a violent attack inside a Dinkytown restaurant. We just got video showing a restaurant owner attacking another man with customers just feet away. Take a look. The video here shows two people come in and attack workers at Kung Fu Tea. The video is very violent, so we're only showing you pictures of the fight. But one of the victims tells us that he and one of the attackers are business partners. He says he was attacked after his partner's other business was cited for a health violation. We have new details this morning involving that major cyber attack in St. Paul. The Minnesota National Guard's cyber force has deployed for the first time for a threat within the state. Minnesota's National Guard is one of just a handful of states to have a fully operational cyber team. They say years of training and preparing led them to this moment here at home. As federal agencies, including the FBI, help the city investigate the threats, Lieutenant Colonel Brian Morgan says the Guard's role looks a little different.
The National Guard's role is largely focused around helping the city of St. Paul recover and perform remediation. So, we are working in support of the city of St. Paul.
Their work will be done, he says, once the city's critical services are back online and operating as normal. But when that will be is still unclear. Chief Axel Henry says police and fire crews are still responding to all emergency calls. New this morning, Governor Walz is endorsing Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey in the upcoming election. In a new statement, Walz calls Frey a partner he can trust to deliver progressive policies. Mayor Frey is going up against State Senator Omar Fateh, who won the city's DFL endorsement. Happening right now, a search for survivors in Ukraine's capital city after Russia's missile strikes there overnight. New video in this morning shows the destruction. You can see smoke and flames pouring from residential buildings that took a hit. Officials on the ground say at least 4 people are dead. Russia is still slamming Ukraine even after a warning from President Donald Trump to agree to a ceasefire or face sanctions and possibly more tariffs. Now, speaking of the president, the clock is ticking down to tomorrow's August 1st trade deal deadline. More tariffs will take effect with countries the U.S. has not made deals with. Meantime, the White House is celebrating some strong economic news. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington.
Hi there. President Trump reaffirmed that tomorrow's trade deadline will not be extended as it has been in the past, calling it a big day for America and a big week for key indicators about the economy, including a jobs report out tomorrow. With just hours to go until President Trump's Friday deadline, when hefty tariffs kick in for global trading partners that haven't reached a deal, the president announcing an agreement with South Korea for billions of dollars in new U.S. investment and 15% tariffs on goods entering the U.S., lower than he'd threatened, but sharply higher than in recent years.
It's literally trillions of dollars ultimately being brought into our country. We're now negotiating with various other countries, and the rest we're just sending out the bill.
Among the countries getting a heftier tab, India, slapped with a 25% tariff plus an additional import tax penalty for buying Russian oil amid the war on Ukraine. And then there's Brazil, hit with a 50% tariff that has many American coffee shops reeling and weighing price increases.
It would only be by cents because we don't want it to be where it's too much for the client.
That risk for tariffs pushing prices up, making the Federal Reserve keep interest rates steady rather than the rate cut President Trump has been publicly pressuring for to boost the economy.
We have no inflation, and we're very strong, and we should be lowering the rates.
Inflation ticked up slightly in June, but has trended downward overall this year, alongside low unemployment, strong market growth, and now word that after shrinking at the start of the year, the U.S. gross domestic product grew, a better than expected 3% this spring, with outlook for the months ahead still uncertain. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said higher tariffs have begun to show through in the prices of some goods and that their overall impact on the economy remains to be seen. President Trump lashed out at Powell this morning, calling him a litany of names, again questioning whether he should stay in the job and saying the country is paying the price for the Fed not cutting rates. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
A story developing in Albert Lea this morning, where the city council just voted against what would be Minnesota's first pot shop. The Smoking Tree would have been located in this strip mall. The state legally awarded the owner a retail license 2 weeks ago. The law does give local government control over where recreational marijuana businesses can operate, but they can't entirely opt out of the industry.
I really need my community to show support in a positive, pro-social way. And remember, at the end of the day, we have to educate people to overcome decades of propaganda.
Now, the mayor says the city needs more time to answer its questions about registering cannabis businesses and that he plans to take up the issue again as early as next month's meeting. The MLB trade deadline is less than 12 hours away, and Twins fans, what you saw wasn't just a hug. As you probably heard by now, Minnesota traded their closer Jhoan Duran to Philadelphia. Now, in return, the Twins get top Phillies prospects at number 4, Eduardo Tate, and at number 6, Mick Abel. Again, the trade deadline is 5 p.m. today. The Twins have already made a few moves right at deadline, sending Chris Paddock and Randy Dobnak to the Tigers. Stick with us, more news and weather coming up after the break.